Text if you care. This is a getting started guide for nonprofits and how you should think about text messaging for your organization. We're going to talk through some of the basics of text messaging, the statistics. I'm going to give you 5 concrete ways that you can think about different campaigns to run for your organization. And then finally, show me the money. I'm going to explain some of the providers and costs associated with text messaging. Text messaging has a 99% open rate. Think about it. Even to delete it, you got to see the freaking text that comes in. You're like, oh God, oh, what does it say? Oh God. Speaking of which, you have 90% of all text messages being read in like 15 minutes. Like literally, you send it 15 minutes and 90% of those things are read. It takes someone on average 90 seconds to read the message. You kind of get it, what I'm getting here, right? If you include a link, it's got anywhere from like a 5% to as much as a 40% click-through rate. Obviously, some results may vary, but people use and respond to text messaging disproportionate to any other messaging system. I'm gonna let that sit for a second. I'm just gonna wait here. You get it. You probably have a text right now. It's all right, you can check. So how does it actually work? Well, there's a lot of terms that can be thrown around with text messaging. Ultimately, here are some top-level things you need to understand. It is a one-to-many system. There's going to be some interface. You log in basically to a website, and it allows you to manage, just like a mail system, like MailChimp or something you may be using. It allows you to manage all of the people on your list, and then all as a big group, send them one message. It can be up to 160 characters. Usually has to include, or always has to include, a little sort of disclaimer, stop, reply stop. If you want to opt out, messaging rates may apply. That sort of like generic disclaimer has to go in there. There are things called keywords. So you're going to have a short code and you're going to have keywords. A short code is sort of like a short phone number. It's a number that you're dialing to, and then the message that you usually have, a potential stakeholder or somebody who's going to become a subscriber, the message is where people are going to put in a keyword. And this is going to be something relevant to your organization. So if it were whole whale, I'd say, you know what, text whole whale to 411411, and off it would go, it would opt into ours. And this is something called shared shortcode, because there are other people with this shortcode, but the keyword determines where it's going to be sort of like routed when it gets there. So that's the biggest thing that sometimes gets people confused. But once you've got that keyword set up with a provider, we'll talk about that in a bit. Once you have that keyword set up, you can put it on billboards, you can advertise it, you can put it on your website. You can also, forget about the keyword, you can also have a web to lead, which is just meaning like in that normal form that you have, maybe it's your newsletter, maybe it's a sign up to become a student or a volunteer. You can actually have people opt in by checking the box, putting in their mobile phone. You can have them opt in to hearing from you, and that's a web to lead, and that can go right into your system as well. Once they've opted in, super important, they opted in, you can't just dump a list of phone numbers you might actually have. Don't do that, that's really bad. Once you have that list, then you can message them regularly. However, regularly is up to you. You want to obviously respect their phone. I've seen as much as weekly and as infrequently as quarterly. I don't recommend like that infrequently, because then people sort of forget who you are and then may report you. I'm going to talk through 5 different ideas. The first one is on-demand texting. So when somebody needs a service, like let's say they're going to check the weather or they're going to send a message in so they can get some feedback back. One group that is doing this tremendously well is No Kid Hungry. They started a summer lunch lookup program where parents, if they're wondering where the local summer lunch might be, they can text into No Kid Hungry and find the local place where their child might be able to get free food. The next one is an alert or a sort of helpful reminder. One is a text for baby that you may have originally heard of, where you're helping moms get information as they move through their pregnancy about helpful things they should be eating. Another one that I really like is United We Dream. And they set up a way for people to text in and then get alerts when certain sort of like timing comes up for their immigration status, things that they need to get back to the government, and they're helping them figure out when they need to respond. So that's a helpful alert text you can come up with. Number 3, an interaction or like a gaming type of text, something that's more fun. An example of this is AFS, which is the second largest student exchange program. So AFS USA worked with us and we created a really fun interaction where you text in or you sign up via the web and you go through this basically like quiz, but it's a personality test that tells you where in the world you would be best suited as a student to go travel on a foreign exchange program. Number 4, a concierge text. Now this is a heavy lift because you have to be ready to respond. A lot of these other tools that I was just talking about have an automatic response, meaning it's already programmed in. Someone texts back and says, oh, hey, how's it going? In this case, you're going to be offering a concierge service. Planned Parenthood Federation of America does this, and they do it through chat, they do it through online, and they also have a text message where you can text in any sort of question that you may have related to Planned Parenthood's services. Heavy lift, but it's a tremendous service they provide. Number 5, boring regular old pushes. I'm kind of kidding, but not kidding. Like, ultimately, when a lot of people start, they think about text messaging like it's email. They're just like, oh, I'm going to blast away, and negate the fact that people are going to reply back and vigorously reply back. And if you throw that away, you can just do boring notifications and pushes. I don't encourage you doing it. You can think about using text messaging though in small groups. So if you have a small group of volunteers, that can be used to send them alerts and communicate with them, getting info from the field. But number 5 is a sort of trick one. Don't do boring messages. They're boring. So let's talk about how much this costs, right? That's all well and good, George, but I heard text messaging costs so much. I don't know who talks like that, but someone might talk like that. It doesn't cost that much, but it can cost a lot. What do I mean? Every single time you text message, it's roughly a penny or a fraction of a penny. If you're paying more than that, then that's a bit weird. It's technically free to receive text messages. So when I was talking about somebody opting into your shortcode, that should be free. Each service depends. So I've got a list of different places that you can check out. If you're just getting started, places like Textmarks or EasyText might be the way to go. If you're building like a dynamic app, I mean, you're probably not watching this, but we built allgoodtext.com, a text messaging platform that actually just alerts you. So you can't really send things, but it alerts you based on your data that you're getting from Google Analytics and YouTube. But we built that on Twilio. So that's an example. If you're going to build an app, you can work with Twilio. And then at the high end is people like Mobile Commons. I love those guys. They're a bit more expensive, up into sort of $1,000+ per month, but they've got tremendous features, and it's for larger list growth. We've worked with them in the past on large campaigns. They sort of handle the back end for folks actually like Planned Parenthood and No Kid Hungry. So there's some starting points for you to start learning about text messaging. There you have it. We've covered some of the basics of text messaging. You understand the costs. I've given you 5 starter ideas and places that you can check out. You know what? Go sign up for their lists. See how they're interacting. And you know what? The only way to mess this up is to not do it. It is a tremendous platform. You have an opportunity to speak a lot more deeply with your audience. And you know what? Start small. Start building your audience now, because you can't speak to people who you don't get now. If you're not too busy text messaging, you can watch our next video, which is awesome. Or you can you can subscribe. You should subscribe. It's healthy. Almost as healthy as text messaging.